Okay, so I'm just mixing the colour for the foliage at the moment. So on my palette, you can see I've got a bit of sap green, phthalo blue, phthalo green, yeah, we're just going to create some cooler greens at the moment, which are going to be quite dark initially, and then we're going to maybe do some lighter ones later. So I'm going to start dark. I think that'd be quite good to build up to the lighter tones later on. So notice I'm using lots of green, maybe a bit of yellow as well, to get those earthy tones. Again, keep applying the black. And then maybe coming over, if you made it too light, which I initially have, but I'm going to come back to that later, I can add maybe a little bit more phthalo green, brown, and I've already got a combination of two greens I can use, which is fine. I'm going to probably make it more earthy, so I'm going to add more brown. Okay, and you can see the image I'm working from in the attachment next to on the upload of this video. You can just scroll across and see the photo I'm working from. As you can see from the photo, it's somewhat earthy, the tones are a lot more muted than the tones I've got here, but I went for more of a summery look, so brighten up the tones, heighten the tones, made the yellows more pungent, greens, the blues more lighter, so it's kind of more of a summery feel, while in the original image it's more of an autumnal scene with slightly less contrasts. Yeah, I think we're nearly there. I'm just going to have a bit more black, a bit more of the blues and the brown. And I'll just clip the orange there, which is actually helping me to get those earthy tones, which is what we want. So I'm going to go with a combination of palette knife sort of textures, brushwork, and maybe a sponge. I don't know at the moment, but I think the important thing is variation, because when you get trees or earth or even mountains and things like that, I think the important thing is to be diverse with your methods. There's no, I personally don't like using the same texture all over, because it becomes predictable. Like a tree, I would never use just solely a sponge to create a tree effect. I would use many different effects and scrape into it, creating the branches, or allude to branches which aren't there, to make it more unpredictable and interesting to look at. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm just going to apply this on here. Now, in my previous video I said, which is important, to keep these background colours alive. So we've got this intense green here, there's a more primary green, we've got an earthy brown, we've got this deep kind of ultramarine blue, we've got yellows over here at the top and over here, and we want those colours to stay alive. So as you can see in my palette, I've got the deep kind of sap green colour, and we've got a lighter colour which we'll use later on. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to use the palette knife just to flatten out a lot of the colour on the palette knife, so it's all kind of the same distribution of paint on the knife. And I'm going to just start dabbing on the texture of the surface of the canvas. Now, as you can see already, it's creating a bit of interesting texture, which is what I want. And this is going to be a combination of other branches coming through. So I've done a couple of branches. In a minute, I might do some more branches on this right-hand side and in the middle. But as you can see, at the moment, I'm just trying to get some of those textures. So I think at the moment it's a little bit too green still for the darkest tones. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to a bit more black, a bit more blue. I think the blue's really good to cool the tone down. And again, notice I've just come across a little bit again to the right-hand side of the palette. And the reason I've done that is so I can come back to this colour later, so you're not wasting paint. You don't need as much naturally, so we're just creating some of those darker tones here. It's on the right hand side. Some of those darker greens are coming in, and also you overlap the trunks as well. Don't worry about that, because you're going to go in again later on and define those edges. So that was just the base tone, but again, look, I'm smoothing out the side of the knife on the surface of the paper, which is the ground on this one. It could be paint, but if it was paint, it will still be textured, because I always texture my grounds, and that's what gives that textural effect. And if you want some raised areas, for example up the top here, I'm going to use the side of the knife and maybe get some built up areas. Notice I'm pushing away from the tree trunk to create the effect of the leaves there. So yeah, that's important to start applying all over in those areas. Again, the thicker area there. It's a bit too hard on there. Maybe scraping a bit. Again, keeping those blues alive from the actual paint itself. A little bit more orange to that tone to make it a bit more of a warmer green. You can see already it's gone into a slightly warmer green there. And might come down here and create some of those warmer greens in the distance there, going between there. And notice again, it's very important the way I'm doing it. All those little cracks of the yellow and the green are still coming through the gaps.